Good afternoon. Happy Thursday. Today for our session, it will be time for you, for the class, to work on the final reporting. On the report, if you haven't started, then my advice is that you use this time to do with your teams. I have extended the submission date to Sunday, I believe March 7th, so that is Sunday to midnight. A few students asked if we could extend, so I was happy to do so. You have until Sunday midnight to submit the final report. So that is time for you to work on as your team, and I can be around for questions if you choose to stay on the platform, or if you choose form and you do need help, then that's also an option. You can reach out to me on message. It's really up to you. So would you like me to open breakout sessions so that you can work in breakouts, or you will work independently of the platform? I'm open, so you can let me know what you would like to do. I'm really open as well. Or are there any questions or anything that you would like to discuss or ask me now that is also an option? Would you like to have the breakout sessions open? Perfect. I'm going to create 3 groups, and you are allowed to move because now it's everybody's being assigned randomly, but you will be able to move rooms, and there are 2 groups that will be created, as some people I think have left. So I'll be around. If you need any help, please let me know. If not, again, good luck with working on the report. The template has been provided as well for you. I have another template or an example of a real report that I have, but I can't share it. I cannot make it available, but I could show it on screen if anybody is interested in seeing it, to give you a sense of what. Miro, good questions. Okay, so yes, let me just go. I sent a few announcements this morning, so okay, so let me show the report, an example of a report that that a teacher has shared with me as well. But as I said, I can only show you on screen what a report could look like. I just have to make sure I use the ones that I remove references to the client. Hold on. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to share with you. And I will talk about the Miro board as well after this. Okay, so this is a sample of a usability report. So I would say this report, the 2 reports, the templates that I have provided in this report are, as I would qualify them as formal reports. So there are multiple pages. I think this one has 27 pages. The other one has something like 30 pages or 40 pages. You have the options to do formal report, or you will have the option to do informal reports. Now, the reporting you will adapt to your clients and your customer. For the class, we're doing formal reporting. But what I have done in the past at Rogers, when I was working with an agency to do some usability testing, because there's a cost, right? The more lengthy you want the report, the more expensive it will be. me, I'm all about actionable report. So with Rogers and with this particular agency that would do the usability study for us, they would give us a high level, just a summary of what they've seen, what has happened, what they've seen during a test, the issues, and then the recommendations and severity for each of the issues. And it'd be a sense of which one they would fix first, which one they would fix second, which one they would fix third. It was very, very succinct, very, very short, but point form, and then very actionable as well. So I did not need to have the methodology and everything that they've done because I was very close to the project. So I knew all of it. I was really just me personally interested in knowing what do we need to fix? How do we fix it? If they had any recommendation. So, but you should keep in mind that when you're writing these reports, if someone is an executive, and usually what you will do is you'll have an executive summary that will give someone a bird view of what happened and what you found, very high level, so that someone can get a sense of how good or how bad is our website and what some of the issues are, so that someone can almost read the summary without having to read the entire report. So in this template, there's an executive summary that summarizes what has happened. So I would say the closest so far for what you've done is the general overview of what has happened that you gave me in part F. So in part E or part F, I forgot which part is which part. But you did very well, and you will need to expand on what overall you have seen. So part E. So you did very well with part E, and I would say the executive summary is probably the closest to part E is probably the closest to what an executive summary is as well. So if we look at the table, we have executive summary, and then there's a project background. I know about the project background, but I want you to include a minimum. What was the project background about? So the test objective, the overview, what the user scenario, the task. Here they call it task, but it's the same as your user scenario. The overview of the methodology and the profile of the participants as well. And then findings. What were the issues and what are some of the recommendations? In this report, they have the strengths, they have issues, and they have grouped issues like you have done in your part E, which most of you have grouped them per user scenario. So that's one way to do it. So here they've said website functionality issues, perception of client as a generalist, not as a specialist. So this is a bit unique in this sense for this report, but they talk about competition, they talk about everyday online visibility, especially everyday, the shop is inadequate. So they came with thematics. So they group by thematics, but some of you have groups them by user scenario or areas of the site, and that's okay too. And then using the findings, next step. So they give a next step. Of course, if you work for an agency or you work for a research firm and that's all of what you do, you probably want to have a next step that will probably talk about how you can help your project, your client, or how you can get more business with them, obviously. But maybe this is not as applicable to you. But maybe your next step could be, what are we going to do different for our next usability study now that we've learned so much more about usability study in this research? So let's continue and look at a little bit more details of what they have. So their executive summary gives a bit of a story of what has happened. And then they list overview of findings. And then they really talk about searching and browsing through products on the website does not meet basic expectation. Then they go in details. Too many unexpected, zero/few results, not reflective of actual product availability. Then they give a little bit more detail. Although some anomalous spellings are accounted for, many commonly used terms were not successful. So they go in more details. Then they have another thematic that says many placeholder for image not available. Then they explain what has happened. Filters don't work as expected. Then they explain what happened. And then they talk about this client generalist. I don't know what the details are. I haven't read the report in close enough to know what the client. I just glanced at it. Then visits to specialty outfitter stores are part of the hunting fishing experience. So maybe they discover something about people's understanding of what the hunting and fisher experience was, and maybe there's more details about it. Trips, and then so they have thematics so that I, as an executive, I can read and get a sense of how bad or how good is my site. Then they move on into the project background. So the project background is, they talk about the test objectives. So these are almost what you were trying to do. What is it you were trying to think or find out through your site? So this could be a bit recap of your heuristic evaluation and the user scenario, and perhaps what you thought were broken and which led you to do the usability testing. The overview of what the tasks were, overview of the methodology. They even have the schedule of the participants. And then they talk about the pre-test, introduction, the task, and the profile of participants. So this is like the screener, right? So they've said all participants must meet this, and then the hunter participants look like this, and the fisher participant look like this. Then they went into findings, and then they put some cute quotes. This was from an agency, so I think they wanted to be creative and professional as well and fun. Then they went to finding issues and recommendations, and then they go with the strengths, and then they talk about universal familiarity with brand. People are familiar with the brand, the frequency of visit to store, issues, and then they give a little bit more details as to why, and then they go and list some of the issues by thematic: website functionality, client reputation. Then they explain what has happened. So it's taking your little cards and maybe expanding on each ones. And then this website search functionality, it sounds like the functionality, the search was problematic. And then they give a bit of data about the number of searches that were done, perhaps the number of findings or results, successful result whatsoever or not. They show screenshots, and then they have some quotes. These are quotes from the participant. So a lot of them say, and then they put actual quotes. So it's nice. It adds some little breaks to the words, to content, to text, which can be very lengthy. And then if the image doesn't appear, it's like the product isn't really there in the user's mind. So they're going beyond. This, obviously, the user didn't tell them that. But you as a specialist, you actually be able to step up and say, this, with no images, then people are actually thinking this is what is happening. There's deception. So they're putting more of a story around the particular issue too. Search and browse filter have unexpected and frustrating ways. So they just go into details and details and details. But you see, it's all about thematic, and then they explain. Then they go into recommendations. So search and browse, they have some recommendation that they've listed. Not all of them have recommendations. And then where they have some or a sense of, then they include them. So, and then some mix of quotes in between. So they're doing this for all, and then we had another set of recommendation here, and then overall the online visibility of specialty shop is inadequate. Then he explained why. So when you think of it, the online visibility of specialty shop is inadequate. That's really the finding. But no participant found the specialty shop information with prompting. That was the issue that they found. But they said, actually, it's the online visibility that is the issue. That is really the biggest issue. Why are people not seeing? Why people are not finding? So in the chapter 12, I believe 11 and 12 do a good job at explaining this. And then they go in more details and explanation. And then they have the next step. So using the finding, next step. So they talk about low-hanging fruits, feedbacks, comments, and questions may be directed. Okay, so this review of the client website and context is competitor that space has revealed some key findings in the attitude of serious hobbyists towards the client brand. Some of these can be addressed readily by making changes to the website, but most are broader and more websites should be considered low-hanging fruit and challenges, blah, blah, blah. So it's what you would tell your customer. Okay, so here perhaps we think that all these recommendations, they could have said that, they could have done this. So here are the recommendations. From our recommendation, we suggest you implement 1, 2, 3. Then maybe phase 2 is 3, 4, 5, and phase 3 is 6, 7, and 8. So you give your client a sense of an order of in which order maybe they should fix based on the impact of users, and maybe based on the severity or the numbers of users that were affected. So that is a judgment call that you have to make. So it's similar, but also different, but you can be creative. But really, I'm interested in finding issues, what you found, the thematics, what you found, and be able to elevate yourself beyond why is the issue happening, as I've described yesterday. And I'm interested in the meat, the content in the meat, and the story that you will say. So I'm going to read it from a client perspective. Am I able to follow? Is it logical? Are you closing the loop? So if you say there are all these issues, but I find that at the end of the reports, you don't even talk about all the issues and how you're going to fall and what they should do, or the severity of these issues, then I will flag it, right? We need to make sure that there's closure as well. It's hard, Anya, in terms of, do I want it shorter and more succinct or longer story? Like, I want it to be, there's no specific length, but I want it to be substantial enough so that I know that you understood, well, you understood the process and the issues. You look beyond what happened in the session, and you were able to show that this is happening because of this, and then that I feel that you have a good breadth of coverage from the issues that I know that you found on your through the study, because I've been close enough to each study, and then the recommendation. So I don't want you to put words to be fluffy. If it's fluffy that I read and I don't understand, then that's not good. I want it to be actionable too. So I want to understand. I want it to be actionable. And if I were your client, I want to feel that if I'm structured, or if I'm Mini in a Box, or Zara, or whoever, and I'm the client, I feel that I can do something. That I can take this and give it to my teams and say, here's what we found, and either find solution or design. It has to be actionable and clear enough. So if your report says Zara's website is not easy to use, and I read this and all I hear is not easy to use, people didn't like it, but then there's nothing that really explains ease of use and what has happened, then there's nothing for me to do. So put yourself in my shoe. I paid you $20,000 to do this study. If you only give me something that says your website is broken and people are overwhelmed and people don't feel and don't know what to do and they're confused and they're lost, right? Then I'm going to say, well, then why did I hire you? I knew that. So yes, it can be expensive, Mariam, but as I said, I think at the beginning of the class, when I was at Rogers, we would do a usability study once a month, and I would pay $5,000 to the agency, which is actually pretty cheap, $5,000 to be able to do a study of this magnitude. But how did I save money? Yes, $5,000 is really, really nothing. I did 20 years ago when I was doing consulting myself. I was freelancing and I would do usability study at a time. I would charge up to $15,000 to $20,000. It's very, very time consuming. Writing a report, yes, it's good business, good lucrative. You guys can do this for a living. Think of it in there though, in the $15,000, $20,000, in the $5,000, or in the $10,000. There is the fee for recruiting. There is the fee for the participant fee, right? Like you give $100 to participants. The lab facility, right? These are expensive. So the lab facility, that's why your first usability testing, you will want to do them in the lab to impress. But the lab is not going to do anything in terms of being able to go through your issues and really going deep in during the study, right? You've learned the moderation is hard. Getting into people's head, getting to what you need, not guide them, get into their head. Like this cannot do through your system. This is all you. It's and it doesn't matter if there's a lab and a mirror and flashy computer. If you're not good at moderating, if you're not good at taking notes, if you're not good at actually putting together the research, then the lab is not going to fix it. And then writing is long. Writing a report is a big piece. Writing a report for me would take me almost a week. If I remember, like it's going through the data analysis and really going deep. You did 6 study, right? You did 6 participants. Some of you did less because you've helped. But you will do 10, 15 participants, and you have to go through like all of your data and your notes. So it's very, very time consuming. I would have a stack like this of all print sessions, like this printed. So very, very long. But there are ways to save money. If you hire an agent,
question about that. So you're,
yeah.
let's say, like, I mean, that sounds like a lot of money for most of us, but how long is the process, like, from start to finish? Just like, would it be like a month or more?
4 to 6 weeks, usually. Yeah, it could be 4 to 6 weeks, Mariam, depending on how many people and how complex the site is. But 4 to 6 weeks
Yeah.
is the process. Yeah, like, and I would be the very formal process, 4 to 6 week longer report. But I
Wow.
would do at Rogers with the agency. We would do once a month. So we were in a 4 week cycle. We
Wow.
were very lean, but the reporting was very fast. They would give me a high-level summary report of all the issues and the findings and the recommendation and severity. They would give me that within like 3 or 4 days of completion of all the tasks. They were very, very efficient, but someone would just do that for like 3 or 4
Wow.
days.
But the money that you would be getting paid, you would be using some of it to hire like screener company as well, right?
Yes, that is for the hiring and the screener and the company. Yeah, exactly.
And then like
Yeah.
paying all the people being tested. So I'm sure like it adds up.
Just I will tell you, just the lab facility. When I used to rent lab facilities because I was freelancing, but I had no place to do testing. I would rent a lab facility, and it was the most expensive piece. It was sometime I think it was $1,500 a day. They're expensive. Those lab facilities are very, very expensive in Toronto. So phase 5 was charging me $5,000 a month. It was a big deal. It was a really good deal because I was doing a lot of testing, a lot of usability testing with them. It was almost like a retainer. So they knew every month they had a test with me. So they were making their money with volumes. It's not cheap. So this is why this is very serious business, right? Um, so So you can have informal, formal reports. I'm asking a more formal report in this class because you guys will know the worst case scenario and do the best. But I would say if you were to do this for a real client or even your business, you work for a business and you do usability testing and you hire, try to go for short, succinct, actionable. So there's no short and long answer to how many pages, but for this class, for the formal, I would say you should probably stay within the number of pages that you've seen in the template that I give you. Don't be last because I don't expect you to put as much. And yesterday I kind of pointed to you where I'm very much interested in. It's really the findings and the recommendations and also what maybe you would do different for the next testing. Because I know about the methodology and the approach that you've used and the profiling and all of this, but it would be more of a recall of what you've done, but the findings and your analysis is what is more critical, I would say, for me at this point. But keep going with your part E and just build around your part E, and everybody has done good with that part and the thematics and how you group it. So, but I wanted to share with you what another sample of a usability testing. At the end of the day, you want your client to understand what happened and enough that he knows that there's something that they can do. But he doesn't want to hear the site is hard to use and not usable because he knows that. But he wants to know how it's not usable, how it's hard to use, and what they need to do to make it better and fix it and improve it as well. So on that note, I'm going to share with you verbally a few notes that I've made when I was actually going through the part E of all the teams, all the classes. So, and I've made that feedback specifically to each teams, but I think everybody should hear about it. In some of the analysis, I've seen some cards like everybody used Miro, and then I've seen some cards where comments would be made like, the website seems easy to use, or people liked, seems easy to use. Sure, you can make that statement if you want, but really, you'll have to explain it to me. You'll have at some point to tell me. And for me, let's say that this card was on the scenario for buying the mayor. So if the card was for structured and it was for the scenario for one of the participants, and we've said for buy a scenario, this card says it seems that it was easy to use. Then and I think I made that comment, and I'm not saying this is structured, it's one of the team. Then I would say, well, was the participant successful or not successful at completing that task, right? So, and that's really the question. So, and seems easy, then we're doing the study so that we know, can people complete their task or not? So if we say seems easy and we stop there, then I will say, why did we do the study? It's not about seems easy. It's either they are able to complete or they're not able to complete, right? Otherwise, your client will say, well, if you tell me that it seems easy or it's easy to use or people had no issue, great. Maybe there was no issue and no challenges in one particular area, but you will never have a study that the site is perfect. I will tell you. I know for a fact there are always surprises and challenges with all websites out there in the market. But one of our limitation for us is we had maximum 6 participants, 6 sessions. So we may have very well seen 6 different participants because we only had 6. And maybe they were so different that we didn't see anything that was converging, and that's okay. But we would need to do more. We would need to do more than 6 participants. So the number of participants is light. We only did half an hour session. So it's hard to get as much insight in half an hour session with only 6 participants. But if you were to really do a full hour and 10 to 15 participants, you would have a lot more meat and a lot more insight to work with. Okay, so it would be more complex than what you have seen so far. I've seen a lot of cards that, we would say in a lot of observation or observation notes, they would say, oh, the participant like this, the participant like this, the participant like this, the participant did, yeah, like. That's great. But me, I'm more interested in what did it do? What happened? What happened with that participant in that particular scenario, right? We're beyond liking. We're beyond what they've done before. So it's more, yes, it's more about what happened. So you make note of comments. And again, perhaps we could have discussed this before we actually did the session and we did, the notes, but there's so much to talk that I'm trying to find the right moment to discuss this. We're learning, right? And you're learning, and I'm sure you will have ideas about what you would maybe do different on the next that will facilitate analysis, maybe, right? So the observer has a big role to play here on not just noting what people like, but it's also what is happening. So remember, we're doing this because it's observation. Well, if we want to ask them if they like something, you'll do a focus group with 10 people. It'll be more effective, quick. But liking and doing and being successful is completely different. They may like it, they may actually not be able to solve. So you may have said, it's okay if you say they liked, and if your report is written, don't necessarily change all of it, but you may want to consider to think about, do we have too many likes? I want to know, were they successful? They may like, and they may think buying a guitar is perfect on one of the site. But if they're not successful, it doesn't matter if they like, right? It's behavior. The behavior shows that they actually would have felt. And that's a little bit similar to, I don't do posts at the end of this study. I don't often do a survey because they're just reporting. But I want to know top of mind for them. And some of you did this. This is, so what was your experience? What do you think is actually good about this site or bad? And usually, or bad, usually the bad things, the really bad things will pop up. But I don't really spend a lot of time on surveying during, because I'm more interested about observing what is really happening, asking them what is happening, and when I see that they're blocked, trying to see what is happening, why they're blocked, what they're thinking about this particular thing. So more beyond than liking. It's really what is
happening. So it would be, it sounds like it's, we should stray away from what they're feeling, like if they're feeling good or bad, but more about like what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's really about what they're doing, what is happening in that moment and what they're doing. So you can ask, it's okay. They can say, they will say, oh, I hate this. Like, and they've said, I don't like signing up. I don't want to sign up. I would actually abandon. That's kind of liking.
Yeah.
But it's really about doing. It's more about doing.
So, for example, if they completed the task, but there was a lot of difficulty, like they ran into a lot of roadblocks, like how would you, could it be that black and white that it's like either they completed it or they didn't? Like, what's the gray area for if they had, like, there were frustrations, but they were still able to complete it?
So very good question. Well, to me, if there are meaning obstacles, then they're obstacles that could actually lead to failure if they were by themselves, right? So it's a valid observation. And if someone is actually, if they're able to complete, let's say they're able to complete their the purchase, but they had so many obstacles that you want to make note of the obstacles. So you would say they were able to complete, but obstacles were met. Maybe you would say the task took 15 minutes, right? And then which is a bit of a piece of worry. There's a concern that they actually, you will know they may be successful, but then there were challenges. So maybe perhaps you would say, here are the challenges. Then perhaps the recommendation will be we should remove those challenges to actually make the task a lot easier for the participant and for the customer. Then, but we will know why it's not easy because of the following that has happened in the session. So if I think of you were successful in the structure to actually find a mirror, but oh my God, right? It was a bit of a challenge to actually find that mirror. There was a challenge because of X, Y, Z. We were able to articulate them. And you were not telling me, well, I don't like this, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But sometimes you would, but that was okay. You were just saying what we were saying, but it's really what we see, right?
Okay.
So if everybody puts the effort into buying something online on a bad website, we would probably all manage to do it. But could we do it in less time with less obstacles and less frustration and less challenges? Probably. Then we just need to list what those challenges are. So most of you have done, like, we're learning, so it's part of the learning. Even if I would teach all of this before, it was so much to say, right? But I'm hoping that you're seeing what I mean in the little nuance, and it will become even easier when we do the next set of testing. So it's okay to report what they've liked, but we're interested in them doing, and us observing, and the observer who's taking notes to really say, typing what is happening, what they're saying, where they're going, where they're clicking, and noting challenges where they're stumbling, right? As well. And not so much about what they think is good or how they think it's good design.
I have
Here's
a question, Yves.
Yes.
In regards to the report, it says goals of the conducted test, and it says to state the goals in a measurable way. Could you give us an example, seeing that we're all using e-commerce sites? What would be a good way to phrase a goal?
Well, this is the template that I give you, right? So the template may use specific words that I'm glad that you bring it up. So in this case, what I would say, well, you wanted to understand the whether or not the website was meeting the business objective and the user goals, right? If the user was successful at actually completing their goal, like that is one way to measure. You were looking at specific business goal or user goal. Can people buy online? Can people, fine. So you could say we want to know if people are able to do the following task, and most of the tasks have a dollar amount or a user goals. Can people actually complete those goals, on their own online? And if they can, then it's business revenues. We probably potentially the business is losing money. There is a reason why, or there will be a trigger for wanting to do usability testing. Let's say maybe Zara is seeing a drop in online conversion. They're saying people are coming to their site, but when they get to the checkout, there's a lot of abandon. So you will say, we want to understand why people are abandoning the cart, and what are some of the issues with the shopping cart. Maybe structure will say, we're concerned we don't have as many people that actually even find or browse articles, and most people stop at the product page and don't go further. We need to understand why people are not going further in the process. So you can make it up if you want. But you would have got this from structure by meaning your client. but you wanted to understand, you wanted to do observation-based to see if users are able to accomplish the set of goals or user goals that the business has deemed important to their business. So that would be acceptable.
Okay, so in the template, it said something else. I'll just copy in the chat what it said. It was a little bit confusing.
Goals of the conductor's confusion. Through a series of alterations will improve the success for basic. Yes, okay, so yes, you can ignore this part. So take the template is there for guiding, but where you feel that there's you're not really sure, then the chances are we probably didn't really talk about it. You could probably drop it. Perhaps I could have cleaned that part, but I think it's important for you to know. We only did, let's say we only did 1 day, or we did 6 tests, right? Some of you have done 6, some of you have 5, 4. Let's say it was a 1 day of testing. What could happen, and I think what my recommendation will be with you for a client, and that's what we did at Rogers too. In my 5,000 study, we would do this. We would do 5 sessions. We would do 5 sessions, and then we find issues, which is what you do. Then what happened? You do a debrief. So one thing, I don't know if you guys did this. I don't know if you had a debrief after each of the tests and said, hey, here's what happened, here's what I found. You make some note. The textbook talks about this. It's really helpful to do a little debrief at the end of the day. So let's say maybe you would have done 3 days of usability testing. We did the equivalent of a day of usability testing. So we sat in for last week, part E or part D, I said, I want everybody to start doing your analysis and give me high-level issues that you found. That was almost like a debrief. You would do at the end of a day a debrief and say, here's what we found. Here's what we actually noticed after day 1 of testing. People were having issues with cart. There was issues with out of stock. There were issues. So you're starting to put thematics and you make note of them. And you see, here's what happened. And then for some of the issues, you will know exactly. Maybe there's a recommendation, and maybe you're going to talk as a team and say, what if for out of stock? So the Longy and McQuaid website, people were confused the X to remove an item in a cart with out of stock. Some people, I think Elizabeth said, oh my God, like, why does it show out of stock? Actually, it was not out of stock. That was to remove and delete. So that would be an easy one. Then you would say, okay, let's replace the X, and maybe you have a prototype. Let's replace the X and let's remove the X and put the garbage can, or say delete, remove. And then you go on testing day 2, and then you see if this is still an issue or not. So this is what they're saying here is they're saying that on day 1, and maybe an example of a test or a goal that Lillian that you were asking, but we didn't go as far as this. But you may want to say, we will stop our research. We will stop all of your usability testing until we reach a completion rate for all of the user scenario to 90%. So when I asked you, you had 5 scenarios. Let's say you had 5 scenarios, and you want to know, are people able to complete? I said, do they pass, do they fail? And I would say some of you, for some scenarios, good food. I think good food, most participants in good food actually fell for creating an account because people don't want to even create an account to be able to browse. So I would say create an account on good food is, I would say 90% of people fell, but I don't have the exact number. But let's say actually 90% of people fell for good food on day 1. Then maybe the team for good food would sit back and say, is there something we can do in a prototype so that we will take a day, we will make some changes, and then on Wednesday, we're going to go back and do the same test scenario and see if we have a better success rate. That is this comment here, Miriam. So what you will do, I've seen study go over the course of 3 days of testing. Monday would be what we've done. Then on Tuesday, we would spend a day with our designer and even the client to think about some recommendation that we would do. We make changes to the prototype. Then on Wednesday, we go back. We do the exact same test. We do the same test scenario with 5 new participants. Then we note how many are successful, how many are not successful. and maybe time to do a task. So Miriam, you said, well, we may be able to pass, but maybe they had many issues. I said, absolutely. Maybe on day 1, it took them 15 minutes to do task 1, scenario 1. Maybe on day 2, the Wednesday, it will take them 5 minutes to do the same user scenario because you fix some of the obstacles that you observe.
Oh,
and
okay.
then
Sorry,
and then most,
because we
yeah,
haven't
and most people
done the fixing part yet. It's just like we've been testing, so we were like, oh, how could that goal apply to us? Because we haven't really done any redesign, but this is considering like you would be doing redesigns and different iterations. That makes more sense. Okay, thank you.
Yes. So this doesn't apply to you. You can remove it. You can skip it, that part. But yes, that's really what it is. So and that's really powerful and really useful. And I've done this many times. So you just get a chance to feel more confident. On a Friday, you've actually done 2 iterations of your prototype. On the Friday, you probably have a success rate of 90%, and you've eliminated a big portion of the challenges that you found. But some challenges you may not be able to find a solution for that week of testing, but it will still be something that you will report. But then the beauty is you can actually test some new variations on this day 2, variations on day 3 for some of the big items that you find, and then you feel a lot more confident. And it's all done through the observations. You just follow them and watch them doing. So I think that was pretty much it in terms of some of the feedback, and I've made specific feedback or notes to some of your cards. So in the part E that you submitted as well. So make sure that you read Now, this is the first report we do. I'm going to give you feedback on that report. Then you'll be able to take that, and then we're going to be able to apply it to our next usability testing that we will do. The next one is non-moderated, and it's online using user testing. So it's very different, and you'll see we have to be even more structured for a user scenario because no one is there. It's like a survey, online survey. It's somehow a bit more complex, but one step at a time. So now this is your time to continue your report, work on the report. If there's this part that you really confused in the template, you really think doesn't, if you confuse and then there's a chance it doesn't apply to us, you remove it and keep it in based on what I have shared with you. And if you are unsure, send me a course message, and then I'll be able to help you, assist you. So, are there more questions? I will open the groups. We have enough people, so I will open the breakout groups for you to work. I'm going to open. We have 5 teams. I'm going to open 5 of them, and then you guys can shuffle. Allow attendees to switch around, and if you need me, let me know, and I'll be happy to come and assist you. Good. Now, if I don't talk to you before the end of the lab and the class, well, good luck for writing the report. And if you have any questions between now and Sunday, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help. And if I don't talk, which I think we're not going to have a chance to really talk very much, then I really hope that you'll have a good reading week. So I hope you'll have time to relax a bit, enjoy, do things that you like, go out for a run. Elizabeth, it's going to be nice, I think. I heard 2 digits for weather next week. So, or anybody else who likes to go outside or do biking or do hikings, be safe. But well deserved. You worked really, really hard, and I'm really happy with the passion and the work and how serious you took this class so far. So I really appreciate it. Okay, on the note, there was a question about Miro. So I sent an announcement. The Miro link. I don't know if you ever done this, but because we're like half in the session, we're half in the term. You don't have to do it today. You could do it when we come back from the reading week. I created a Miro where I have a column for start, stop, and continue. So I want you to use sticky notes and say, is there something that you feel that we should do in a class that we haven't done, that maybe we should do more often? So you could have a sticky note at start that says, I don't know, maybe you want to have more assignments. So you would say, we want to have more assignments. Or maybe you feel there are too many assignments. Or you feel that there's something you really think that works very well for the class. Then you would create a card and put continue. Okay, so yes, Lillian wants more assignments. So I'm going to go and put one. So think of this. Think of the course. Think of your experience with the course. Think of my teaching. Think of the textbook. Think of anything. And just think the things that are probably annoying you will pop up. Then maybe you want to say, you just want to put a card and say, I'm not sure where it goes. I don't know if it's start, continue, or stop. But here's a card. Note it, and then we can talk about it when we come back after break. And then we can see how do we adapt. I may be able to implement some of the recommendations so that we all benefit, and then your experience is a better experience for the following 7 or 8 weeks left. That's really just, it's not an assignment, it's just an opportunity for you to give feedback as we're still in it, so that we can make your experience a better experience. And it can be about anything, about teaching, about the schedule, the sessions. And here's, I'm going to open a little parentheses, and then I promise I will let you go to the breakouts, because I'm going to have one class less than I'll be teaching. Information architecture, I was teaching information architecture, but it's 6 hours a week. I'll be done. I'm actually done teaching architecture, information architecture this week. So I have openings. My schedule is opening. And I have 2 classes. I'm still teaching 2 classes. If the other class is open to maybe shift as well their schedule, I may be able to bring our 3 hours together as opposed to Wednesday, and then have 2 hours like today. If they're open to change to the Tuesday, then I could offer, if it works for you, but again, it's only if it works, I could offer that we have our 3 hours all in a row, as opposed to have over 2 days for this class. But I will need the other class to accept that I will do the same thing with them on a Tuesday, which they may also accept. So no commitment, no changes yet, but I've been thinking about it. And if you guys can look at your schedule, and you think it would actually benefit you, then we may be able to do that. We have the flexibility to adapt too. So that is the start, stop, and continue. Things that you like, that you think, or that we haven't done that we should do, more assignments, as Lillian said, and then, or thing that we should really keep because you think it goes very well. But my assumption is I will continue unless there's something really broken, but this is an opportunity to share. Oh, yeah, the Tuesday I would have them to switch my other class on Wednesday. I have to see with them if they can. So this could also be an option. I don't know, but I could. Maybe it would actually work for the other class too. I can see if I could shift. Maybe you guys can tell me if the Wednesday is a better day for you or the Tuesday is a better day. And I can see with the other class, if they say maybe for them the Wednesday, that we could all shift and everybody's happy. You can send me a message if you want, a course message. Think about it. We don't have to decide today because I haven't even mentioned it to the other class too. And or we could shift the Wednesday. We could shift to the Thursday. I could bring the Wednesday to the Thursday. I could move the Thursday to any time too, because I'm okay on the Thursday too. Like, I have my full Thursday. I'm actually going to have my full Wednesday. I'm flexible Wednesday, Tuesday. Like, the Tuesday is just with the other class, but the Thursday is also all full, a full day for me available. The Thursday, I could do the 3 hours on the Thursday if we wanted to. So there are options, but or we may decide not to change anything because it's maybe conflicting or difficult for the rest of the class. But it could be an option if it works, and if it's something that is convenient for all of us. That will be, I'm open. Okay, I promise I will open the breakouts. I've said 3 times, so now I'm doing, and I will allow you to switch. And good luck, and enjoy your reading week. Be safe. We need you safe, and we look forward to seeing you.